Hey there, Larry Stein, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service with you today. We're going to try to out with the wind today. I know the wind is blowing, so hopefully you can hear okay. We'll shift around and get to a quiet spot here directly, but we wanted to show you a few things before we got started. Yesterday we premiered our garden checklist for April, and hopefully you've had a chance to download that and look at that. So we'll show you a few of the tips, talk about a few of the tips here in a minute or so. But we wanted to start out with a little bit of freeze damage information this afternoon, first off. Excuse me. And so this is a citrus tree. It's a tropical plant. It's outside of its native habitat. This tree actually was covered. It was covered with a tarp all the way over the top. And it also had a light source underneath. But then the power went off, and the power stayed off, and so it got down extremely cold. And so you've always heard the old adage that hot air rises. And so if you will look at this tree, the bottom limbs actually look more dead than up at the top. So up at the top you have a lot of green shoots, meaning exactly what I just told you is right. So that tarp, even though we didn't have a heat source, artificial heat source underneath, the heat from the earth was enough to accumulate up at the top to keep those branches from freezing, which is kind of, you always hear that, didn't expect it. We thought this tree was going to have a lot more damage. And so hurry up and wait like ugly is a good situation this time. Notice you can start trimming these branches back, but when you trim them back, notice you got some green yet. And so don't be over aggressive when you come back in here and prune, because some of these, like if you look right here, even though all this looks dead, they're starting to shoot little buds right here. So what we're telling you is you can start taking these branches back some, but don't be too aggressive. Let it come out. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they think we need to really wait almost until June to know for sure. Because what might happen is we might have these shoots push out, and then they die back later. So we're going to take a little bit of a tour now, look at some other plants. Here you're looking at a Saxuma plant. And notice the Saxuma plant has more cold tolerance. That was a grapefruit that we just looked at. This plant has more cold tolerance, and so you see more shoots coming all over the tree, which is what we would expect. Then we have avocado tree, and if you look at the avocado tree looks totally toast, which is what you would expect. I mean, tropical plant, no cold tolerance at all. But then, had you gotten a big hurry, if you notice right here, it's starting to bud out. And most people would have been aggressive, taking it off at the ground, and then they would have lost that particular shoot. Notice that your junk trees, hackberries, it didn't hurt them at all. The cold didn't hurt them at all, so they're coming back aggressively. So let's take a little bit more of a tour, walk. Here we have columbines blooming. They went through the cold just fine. Yopon holly went through the cold just fine. Boxwood went through the cold just fine. Nandinus went through the cold just fine. So we'll talk more about some of these other freeze damaged plants here directly, but we want to point out a few things on our garden checklist for the month of April. One of the things you're going to notice is rose bushes are heavy feeders. So if you prune your rose bushes back hard, they ought to be pushing a lot of shoots. And the key is that you feed them fairly well. And so we recommend these slow release fertilizers. And in fact, April is the time of the month to fertilize most of your plants. And if you use these slow release fertilizers, they will release over a long range of time, and you'll get more utilization of the fertilizer by the plant. So I would suggest the slow release fertilizers. Remember, if you keep the buds picked off after the flowers bloom, they'll keep pushing out more flowers for the rest of the year. Now's the time to plant annuals, bedding plants. A lot of people want to have color around their house or whatever, so these are petunias. And everybody, when they buy transplants, they want to buy them with the flower already open, like these right here. But the most ideal situation is to buy them with tight buds. If you buy the transplants with tight buds, they're going to bloom for a longer period of time. So don't go for pretty right off the bat. Go for the tight buds, and they will last a lot longer. Now's the ideal time to bring out house plants that you maybe had inside and you need to repot, so you can knock them out of the container. They still haven't started active growth. Put in new mix, also amend with a slow release fertilizer. A lot of us have already planted our spring garden and everything's coming up, and a lot of times we have leftover seed. And most people stick it in the drawer in the kitchen and forget about it. But if you will take care of the seed, it will come up next year and the year after that. Notice these are green beans right here in this bag. Green beans, Del Monte green beans, 2010. 2010. This is 2021. These seeds still germinate just fine. This is white scallop squash. We collected it in 2020, so we've labeled it. And so we'll put these, they're in plastic containers. Put them in the crisper in the refrigerator. Typically, you don't want to freeze them, but if you will refrigerate them, they will last a long time. One of the other things you need to know is we have a lot of tender growth on these plants coming out, and one of the things that you'll find on these tender growth is you'll see these aphids. Little aphids will start to suck on some of these tissues, and so if you have that, a hard spray of water will wash those guys off. A good 2-inch rain does wonders for everything. So be on the lookout for that. Doesn't really hurt anything. It will deform it a little bit. Sometimes you'll see the ants farming the aphids. In other words, the ants are protecting the aphids because they feed on the honeydew that the aphids produce. So sometimes you'll see something like that. If you will recall, in an earlier episode, we told you to like ugly. And so we had these begonias that had been covered, and we had all the dead tissue down in here. Notice how they're coming back. So again, by being patient, these are going to rejuvenate, and we'll have a full pot of plants again. So right here, even though this one looks dead, if you look way down there, you have new shoots coming out. And so look, if you look over here, these are pots that looked exactly like those right there, and they've already filled out. So like I said, we tried to get you to like ugly, see how things are coming back. So we want to show you a few other things that are coming back yet. One of the things we want to point out is the true maroon bluebonnet. Notice these are the true Aggie maroon color. And so if you ever get these to come up, or if you plant red, maroon, whatever, and you get this color, if you will isolate this color, then this color will perpetuate itself. You want to pull all the blues and other off colors, but that's true Aggie maroon, which is really pretty. So we have some of these other plants that had freeze damage on it. This is improved Mystic Spires. Notice how it froze the top, but the plants are coming back from the base just fine. A lot of people think this stuff is ugly, but realize that these stalks right here will actually give these some protection from the wind. And so you don't necessarily need to take them off, but they will easily pop off. Be on the lookout for weeds as well. See the weed right here? This is the weed called bed straw. And it sticks to everything. It'll stick to anything. So we call this bed straw, and so now is the ideal time as these weeds start to come up to get those out of there. We also have some other weeds over here you need to be on the lookout for. This is wild carrot, and these will form the seed pods, and when they do, they'll stick to everything. We call them beggar's lice. So now is the ideal time to get these wild carrots out of there. A little bit more, but notice how these salvies are coming right back. Alright, so we have another plant down here. This is Firecracker Plant. And obviously it killed the top, but if you notice down in here, It's coming back, coming back. And so now all we have to do, take a weed eater, take clippers, whatever, clip this off, and it is going to come back from the base, and so that's a good thing. So we're going to show you a few other plants. Also be on the lookout for other weeds. Like right here we have hackberries coming up. You know, hackberries, they thrive. And so obviously we had a raccoon deposit a prize here for us, and so we have all these seedlings coming up. And so now is prime time to pull those out before they get established and you can't do anything with them. A couple other freeze damaged plants we want to show you. Lantana. This is Lantana right here. So obviously it's froze back. This is the purple Lantana. Not, I would say it's less hardy than the gold, but you see it's coming back. We have this old stuff, and so we can mow this off now, and the new plants will come through. We have a couple of other freeze damage things we want to show you. Notice we have the wild poppies blooming here, double poppies, also amaryllis. Well, we have a couple of more citrus plants we want to show you the results of. So right here we have a couple of citrus trees, This tree right here was an improved variety that was up here, and these were rootstock shoots. Notice all the thorns. Notice all the thorns on the shoots itself. And so if you look back over here, this is coming back. This is coming back right here. Now notice that that's all rootstock. That's all rootstock. Now some people, here is another citrus plant. Here's another citrus plant. And this plant is actually on its own root system. And so the nice thing about having a citrus plant on its own root system is, if it comes back, it's going to be true to type. And if you notice way down in here, here are the new shoots coming back. And so had we been aggressive and took this off way early, then our shoot would not have come out. But notice how it's coming out. And so now we can go ahead and start to take these things back. You would have taken this way off, but if you notice, it's coming out up here as well. And so like I told you a while ago, don't be aggressive, but now you can start taking back the brown stuff, cleaning it up so it's not as ugly as it was before. But don't be too aggressive. Leave some of these other shoots right here, and that way they can kind of protect of the new growth. So last plant we want to tell you a little bit about is this promo plant that we showed you yesterday. This is a Naval Orange. And it was covered as well when the freeze came in. But was a very aggressive wind, and the wind blew the cover off. So the first night the temperature went to 11 degrees. And so, you'd have thought it would be a goner, but went ahead and be the optimist that you can be if you're going to be a horticulturist. Recovered it, and notice how the plant is coming back. So now it's actually coming back up in here. So we don't want to be too aggressive, but again, we can start to take off some of this ugly stuff up at the top and kind of get these plants back in shape. So the freeze was tough on a lot of plants, but a lot of our plants are recovering just fine. It's going to be kind of amazing to see how they continue to recover. And so we're real hopeful that a lot of them will continue to recover, and so we'll kind of wait and watch that. Any questions?
How long should I wait to know if Texas palm trees are alive? And should I take off all dead fronds from Sago palms and Texas palms?
Yeah, okay, good question about the palms. A lot of the palms took it hard, especially the Sago palms. And so yeah, now if you have brown fronds, you can take them all the way off back to the main stem. We're pretty sure that Sagos are going to come at least from the base. We're not sure about the tops of them. But we've had palm trees sit there 3, 4, 5 months before they finally pushed out. So yeah, you can take the dead fronds off, but keep them watered. Don't let them totally dry out. Keep hoping for the best. Any other questions? All right, well, thank y'all for joining us today on this Good Friday. It was a pleasure to visit with you, and hopefully your plants are starting to respond. We need a really good 2-inch rain to bring out the wildflowers. The wildflowers are there, some are displaying, but if we got a good rain, it would really bring them out. So until next time we'll be visiting with you about budding. We're going to show you about budding fruit trees, and so we'll see you next time. And so until then, this has been Larry Stein, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service, wishing you a happy Easter.